What is this thing? My name is Tom Wiseman. My student number is C3303739, and today I'll be talking about the puzzle I've designed for assignment 2. So essentially that thing I showed before was a part of my puzzle. So my puzzle is 5 pieces then that when matched correctly fit together to make a square as such. So this is quite a straightforward puzzle, very easy to solve, and very very quick to solve. The reasons I've done this is I was looking at the interview with Miss Chrissy Bisda, and she said that she would get frustrated or bored if something was too complex, or it would take too long to solve. And so one of the things of this assignment was to make it easier for someone that is non-sighted to solve rather than someone that is sighted. So I also had to think of ways I could add to this puzzle to sort of make it more difficult for sighted people, but also sort of give clues. And that was one of the topics covered in class, which was heuristics. And this was the concept of enabling people to discover or learn, or in this case, solve my puzzle. So I've had to think of ways that I could add to it to sort of enable people to solve it easier, and especially to those with the framework and experience of those who are non-sighted. So I'll just show the final, the final product of my puzzle. So it's essentially put into this shoebox as such. The features of the puzzle is that it has a curtain here that stops you from looking into the puzzle when solving it, and this lid here that can be removed at any point of the puzzle and looked into on the condition that the puzzle pieces aren't touched. And so these are the pieces here, and they have a guide here in the square that can be sort of easily distinguished just by feeling the edges there. They're a raised edge from the bottom of the shoebox. Another feature you might notice is a color code that's been included here. Now that the puzzle's been solved, you can easily tell that the color code doesn't have any purpose and is there purely to misguide people with sight who want to remove the lid and look into the box and try to solve the puzzle that way. And so that's one way I've made it more difficult for sighted people. When deciding on some of the features of the puzzle, I look towards and sort of to get a better framework of sort of non-sighted people, I look towards the interviews that Warren Riley had done with Mr. Mark Walters and Miss Chrissy Bisda. One of the first things I thought was really interesting was the way they both sort of perceived the piece of foam cut in half. Miss Chrissy Bisda sort of stated in her interview that it was natural for her to fit her pieces into a square with the textured side facing upwards and the smooth side facing downwards. And so that's where the principle for my puzzle being a square sort of came from. But I've also included a texture side on the cardboard, which is sort of a corrugated ribbed texture, which I'll try to show in the camera, but the quality is a bit low. But there's sort of a ribbed texture there and a smooth side on the other side. So, and then the other thing was Mr. Mark Walters' interview when he dealt with the foam piece. It was sort of he felt the edges of the pieces and the texture of the top and tried to align the two. And so from that, I've sort of made it so the outside guide or the outside section of the cardboard here is actually ribbed as well and can be matched up with the ribbed texture of the pieces because this has been cut from the same. So the pieces have been cut from this section of cardboard in this orientation. So that is one way that the puzzle can be solved. In Mr. Mark Walters' interview, he also was looking at a roll of tape, and he could easily distinguish by the feel of the texture on the edges of what is tape and what was the cardboard roll, which I thought was really, really impressive. And it's something that personally trying, I can't actually do with my eyes closed or do that well. And so that's something that I've tried to include as a feature in my puzzle. And so what I've done is added textures on the side of the pieces as such. And so I've used, and these textures actually sort of match up with textures on the edges of the guide here, the outside guide. And so I've used a fine sandpaper. I've used a coarse sandpaper. I've also used a smooth sticky tape and a masking tape to sort of distinguish between the 4 different textures. And so the puzzle can actually be solved an alternative way by matching the textures of the edges to their corresponding sort of edge on the guide. And so for these reasons, I felt like I've successfully completed an assignment where a person without vision can easier solve than someone with vision, and that there is actually 2 different solutions to the puzzle, in being that matching the corrugated rib texture of the cardboard pieces to solve it, or matching the edge textures together. And so by giving sort of by molding the puzzle to their frameworks, experiences, and knowledge of non-sighted people, I feel like I've successfully made something that can be easier solved. Thanks for listening.